Hello, my name is Dominic Underhallhouse and welcome to another episode of Moonbreaker. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at the future development of Moonbreaker, and these are things that we might not have necessarily clocked on, but things that the team are actually planning to develop in the future. So, what we're going to do is we're going to run through a few of these things and just give a quick little look through it and see what we're hoping to see moving forwards. If you like these videos, especially these sort of shorter ones, please do let me know, because we're going to be trying to do a bit more sort of state of the game and finding out a little bit more about what the plan is moving forward. We're looking forward to all the new set, the new units, things like that. Please do hit that subscribe button and just let me know what you think in the comments below. So, first of all, what we're on is the Moonbreaker Nolt page. So as you can see here at the top, it's moonbreaker.nolt.io. So what this is, if you're not familiar already, is this is the main way to get feedback to the developers. So they're active on Discord all the time, but the Nolt is the real sort of, here's a record of it, people can vote on it, there's like discussion in the comments as well, and this is sort of, all the things that people have suggested for Moonbreaker since its release, or even since, I think probably in the playtest as well. So we've got hundreds of different things listed down here. You can see all the different numbers of votes, loads and loads of them. So what I've done is you can look at these, you can see what's most voted, newest, all that sort of thing, and you can see what the statuses are uploaded by the developers. So this is what's really interesting here, is you can look at whether something is, what sort of priority it is, what sort of category it's related to, and then you can also see what their status is. So the status is what we're going to be looking at here, and the only one that we're going to be looking at now is in progress. So the reason I'm looking at this means they've actually started work on it. So planned is great because it means it's something that might be coming in the future, but these things can always change. We've in fact already seen some go from planned to other statuses as well, but often planned things will eventually go up to in progress, and that just means they're on the way in some way, shape or form. It might not be soon, it might be quite a while, but at least we know it is being worked on, and who knows, it may not even come to fruition, but it's better than not knowing at all. So what we can do is we can look through some of these, and what I've done is I've sorted it by that category of in progress. I've opened up some tabs across here, and we're going to go through these and have a quick look at what's heading our way in probably the not too distant future. Eventually is the plan. So the first one here we've got is the always visible round timer. So there's a lot of discussion on this. Interesting enough, at one point this was rejected, and that was on the grounds that it looked like it would add pressure to the game, make it a little bit more intense, and sort of you'd have that psychological pressure on you of a ticking clock constantly. But having had more discussion throughout all these comments, the main thing that came to it was just about here is the idea of making it optional. So having an optional turn timer at the side of your screen or somewhere in the user interface, and then you can see how long you've got left on your turn constantly. I'm probably going to turn this on as soon as it comes into play. I'm not one that gets too pressured by the numbers. I get more pressured by having the rope turn up, and having a way of sort of judging it throughout the turns I think is great. So this one actually went from rejected to planned, and then not long ago it's gone to in progress as well. And it's also got a comment here, we're planning on adding this to our first big headliner update. So I'm not sure what that really means, but I'm hoping that means the next time the units are released, which is in about 3 weeks time from now, that would be a great change to have to the game. Next, we've got two that are very similar. You have to bear with me, I'm at the bottom of each of these because I've been looking through them in advance. Add objectives. So add objectives, and this one in here is add objectives and turn limit. So these both go hand in hand, and these have now all changed to in progress. And then, so here's a little bit of a description on it there of the different plans for victory points as to how to win through objectives. There's going to be control points for holding different areas on the map. If you haven't seen any of these things, look at the Moonbreaker YouTube, and there's a dev vlog there by Charlie Cleveland, who's written these comments, and he sort of talks through some of the plans for the future, and this is a really, really big part of it, and there's some really interesting interactions with how there's going to be objective play in the future. Now this one here, I've added this in as well, even though it's the very same, but adding in objectives and a turn limit. So the reason I've brought onto this one is it's got the same planning status now, gone into in progress a couple of days ago when these were all updated, but the reason I want to add it is the turn limit. Now there's been a couple of instances, not many, where games looked like they were never going to come to an end. I saw someone in a situation where one player had lifeline, one player had, I think it was a stun, and they were hopping around a map with Astra, putting orbs down to block someone, being chased by Extilior, putting Shield of Hope on themselves every turn, and it genuinely ended up in a situation where, for the game to actually end, the opponent or the Astra player needed to hit something like 80 crits in a row, and it went on for over an hour on a stream. So this doesn't happen often. It's a very, very rare thing. I've only seen one game to that extent, and 2 games ever, and the other one someone just left. But having a turn limit or just a stalemate situation is something I think is really useful. This doesn't say it's necessarily coming along line with the objectives, but I actually think the objective style of play will alleviate that concern, because if someone can keep holding the objectives and scoring points in that respect, then they're going to win the game anyway. It takes away a need for an artificial turn limit. So really good development coming forward there. A clear indicator that it is your turn. So again, this is another one that I hadn't really thought about, but actually sometimes you start the game and you just sort of have to click on your captain to see whose turn it is, and sometimes that does happen if you like Alt-Tab and you come back. Without something being highlighted, you don't actually know that it's your turn. And it sounds really bizarre, but like highlighting the screen or something like that is an option or things like that. So we've got here, they've added a couple of links, so we're not going to look at these now, but it's just showing how Hearthstone does it and how Runeterra does it as well. So it gives you a little bit more information as to how it's going to go. It does say here, we will be doing this, haven't scheduled it, sorry for the confusion on the status, but now, again, first big headliner. So I'm hoping this comes in the new patch this month. No guarantee, but again, really excited for it. Now we're on to the one with my favourite title out of all the requests here, Less Crunchy Crits. I love that wording, it's fantastic. And all that is basically talking about the crit intensity, because when you crit at the moment, it's quite a big chunk of damage. And this was 4 months ago, so this was in playtest. I think it's actually been changed once since then already. But even then, we're going to look to 4 months ago, 3 months ago, and this was sort of in progress. There has been changes since then, but now this is here. So, lots more happening here. Looking for changes soon. You can read the Epic Discord chat log here for more details. This was a separate sort of sub-conversation on the Reddit with Charlie, who was, the developer, lead developer. He was in the chat. We were all sort of in there as well. I was part of the conversation, as were many other people in the Discord, discussing for probably a good couple of hours different ideas for the crit system. There was some suggestions from different community members. There was some about status effects, stunning units, slows, knockbacks, everything you can imagine, changing damage calculations, changing crit calculations, changing crit mechanics completely. And there's a huge amount of ideas that have been floated there. And I think that there was one that came out of it that was very interesting, that instead of just normal attacks being able to crit, you could reduce your accuracy for a turn in exchange for a crit if you hit. And I think that's quite an interesting one. I think that's got a good chance of being tested at the very least. But a lot of interesting changes here. Crits, I wouldn't say they're necessarily a problem for the game in themselves, but in their current state, they do feel a little bit too powerful. I think they just need to be toned down in some way or another. I've had my own ideas on that, but if you feel like it, you can check this Discord link down here in the note, and I'm sure you'll be able to see all of my comments in there just like everyone else's. Next, we've got a really fun one here. Add sandbox mode. So the thing with this is the categories are quite interesting, because it's gameplay, obviously, quality of life, definitely, and painting. Now the reason I like the painting one is it's got here, you can set up your beautiful painted miniatures how you fit in the environment and take screenshots and videos for an excellent pose or battle situations. So I really, really love this. It's basically being able to set up little dioramas with your units on the maps and put things into places, and just being able to make a really beautiful looking diorama, especially for those people who put a lot of time into their teams and make thematic teams. Great option. Obviously good as well with things like here, the suggestion you could demo a unit from your collection, so practice it or see how it works without having to go into a full game. But they're saying have to be fast loading, but also just putting in place scenarios that you want to test how things work. For me to do that previously, I've had to go and ask someone in the Discord to set up a private game, run certain units, go into a certain situation, just to test interactions, which is something that I've done in the past. So a sandbox mode is something that I'd love to be able to do, because I'm often really interested in different nuances, and so finding different ways to do that, especially without having to wait for someone else to be just as interested in me and set up a private game, is a really great option. So I'd love a sandbox mode to come. You'll notice here it doesn't say anything about coming in the next update, so this is going to be a completely separate thing most likely. I wouldn't expect this to be anytime soon, but I'm glad it's something they're considering. AI players need love too, my second favourite of all these names. So this is basically saying that there was an argument for there to be higher levels of difficulty in the AI, with also more rewards as well, because some people prefer to play against AI rather than versus players. I agree completely. Scaling AI would be a great way of doing it. The one thing I would say is that I think scaling cargo runs would be my preferred option of this, because obviously you do want to play against normal games to get better, and I do think an improved AI is a very important thing. You'll notice here that it said expect improvements to the AI with most big updates. That's absolutely the case. I've spoken to the developer who actually does work on the AI, and they've put in a few updates already. So it's a gradual improvement, not like there's not going to be like a distinct point. There's not going to be the AI is incredible now. It's a gradual improvement over time, and I think the AI is actually pretty decent. It's got obviously a few target priority issues like targeting Zax mines, or recently it was changed so they would move out of orbital strike, but after they've now been coded to sort of move out of it, what they don't necessarily do is not deploy into it. So they still deploy into it even though they move out. Again, it's a gradual process. Great changes made to it so far. Looking forward to seeing more in the future. And all in all, pretty happy with how this goes. But for me, improving both of these would be great, but especially cargo runs as well. And now here we get to the most interesting one. I've been saving this till last because it's got a little bit of sneaky extra information in here as well. So, viewing opponent's team after a match, brilliant. I would love to be able to do that. I'd love to be able to see my team, the opponent's team, their banners. I really like seeing people's banners, especially if they make it match the team or something like that, or if they've got a colour scheme and they've got a banner to match, that would be great. And also just to see, what they've used, what we've used, and to get a sort of a bit more information. That compared with some stats in the future, which I'm sure will come eventually, would be great for me. And they said, we've implemented this, expect it in the first big headliner, which is fantastic, and we can actually see a copy of it. So, here's the first thing to look at here. We've got, it's obviously a quick victory game here. It's probably a custom. It's 2 seconds long, but it tells you the game length versus AI, Cholek excavation site. So now I get the official map names included in it as well. It's got a section up here for victory points, which is great. We've got a roster name here, which is brilliant as well. I don't know if we'll have that for the opponent one. I'll have to check. I can't remember. But there's also something else stuck in here that we haven't seen previously. And what we've got here is the play again button. I've really, really wanted this for a while. It saves a lot of time having to go through all the menus again, and just being able to click that play again would be fantastic. And given that also that there's 3 tabs here, so I'm assuming this is going to be a standard post-game tab, so it might have some more statistics than we currently have. It might just be what we've already got. This is going to be, your own team and see what you've got here. It shows you your XP, which is really nice as well. And then this one here is going to be the opponent's team. Now there's a little thing that's happening here that we weren't expecting. If we have a look at the opponent's team, you might notice there are a few units in here that we've never heard of. These are brand new units. They're actually, things that are being worked on in the background. We don't know when they're coming out. I've already seen in the Discord that these aren't necessarily in the next set, but they might be. But we've got 4 units here to have a little look at. So, we have got Stray Nanosaur. Now, this is amazing to me already, because it's a 4 attack unit. We don't have any units in the game so far with a base attack of 4, which is terrifying, really, really strong. However, it's only got 2 health, which is the lowest we've got in the game. So this is a really, really aggressive unit, and it also costs 2 Cinder. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this in a lot of lists, especially if it's got something like Charge. This feels like something that could benefit from Charge, as in, you get 1 use out of it, it deals 4 damage, it dies on the backswing. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So that's a really, really interesting option there, and I'm really keen to see how that works. So I'm actually going to move to this side next. So we've got Pacifier Oatley here. So this is obviously, so these look mostly sort of Cholek-ish, these two so far. Pacifier Oatley, we've already got like Peacemaker Ballum and things like that, and Amplifier Bite. Also Pacifier Oatley fits with that trend. It's a 3 melee attack, 9 health unit with 6 Cinder, so this is absolutely going to have some sort of ability, and I'm trying to think of what it could be with Pacifier. So it doesn't feel like it's going to be a reduced damage, because Defense Dome already does that. It doesn't feel like it's going to be an aura ability, because we've got something over here that might be the same. So I'm really curious as to what it might be. It could potentially slow units in an area. It looks plant-based, so maybe it's going to be some sort of roots or something like that. I can't quite figure it out. Maybe it prevents rapid fire or pummel. Like, I've just had that idea now, but I actually really like that. The idea that we can have something that prevents rapid fire or pummel is an amazing idea to me, so that's great. Hit and run here, 4 Cinder, 3 attack, 5 health. So given how speed is, this has got to have fast, and if it's called hit and run, I'm feeling some sort of Maximus style effect here. It hits something, then can move again most likely, because for a 4 Cinder unit, only having 5 health is really, really low. So I imagine this to be like a glass cannon, jet towards them, hit them with hammer, run away again. That's going to be my guess just based on the name, but maybe even if it kills the unit, something like that. But really interesting there. And lastly, at the bottom left, we've got Cloaker Tozy. So Cloaker here, I'm going to guess this might be from the Shizen faction, whereas like I think this is probably Smuggler, this should be Shizen. We've got an ability only, 5 health and 4 cinder. So the 5 health and an ability with the name Cloaker makes me immediately think that this is going to be a very strong defensive ability. I'm going to guess with Cloaker, it's probably going to be an aura of reduced accuracy. We don't have anything like that so far. We don't have anything that directly affects opponents' accuracy other than move blocking, so Cloaker Tozy, I imagine aura of reduced accuracy that probably in this case does affect itself. Things like Defense Dome doesn't affect itself, but with this only having 5 health, I would assume it probably does as well. So powerful unit, not any attack value, but really, really interesting to see some potential, new units here. Again, we don't know what any of these actually do. These are all just my guesses. If you've got any guesses below, please let me know what you think. But all in all, I'm very excited for this. And like I said, the end screen is in progress and the play again button. So, all in all, the null is something you should absolutely look at. If you've got ideas, pop it on there. You can filter it by anything you want. Have a look at other things that you might want to see. Maybe look at what they think is high priority, what they think is quality of life, painting suggestions if that's your thing, and maybe ideas that they've rejected as well. So absolutely give it a check out. Most importantly, let me know what you think these new units are going to be. I'd love to hear more ideas. I've got plenty of ideas for new units in my head. I'd love to hear yours as well. If you enjoyed this, please hit the subscribe button. Make sure you like the video as well. And most importantly, have a good day.